How's everybody doing, by the way? Are you doing okay? Good, okay, not okay? Don't dare admit. Nobody wants to really hear how you're actually doing. Like, well, actually, my kidneys hurt. Like, yeah, I don't want to hear it. That's the social moral quandary on all that. Okay, don't. Okay, here we go. I'm dropping the link. All right, good. Aaron speaks for everybody because somebody has to. And then let me go drop this in. We got to make, I got happy surgery day on Wednesday, right? So I gotta like get my act together and there's a couple slides we got to get to. And I've been kind of, I don't know, I'm not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry. We're good. Time is our friend. Okay, a little weird that it's February though, right? Could we agree on that? Someone talking? No, that was a different alert. Okay. Okay, link is now in the slides. Okay. I like doing that just because it's done. Otherwise, it like becomes a to-do item. You know what I mean? And then it never, whatever. Something's going to hit me immediately after I step off or something. So if we just build it in, it gets done. Okay. So that link is now in the slides in the Canvas schedule. All right. All right. We got everybody here? 6, 9. This is a few. Tailing off already. This is the point where I, give a speech to those who are here that actually don't need to hear the speech, intended toward those who are not here, who actually need to hear the speech. So I'm going to skip all that and just not give the speech because those of you that are here already know the answer to the speech. I want to direct your attention to the meme of the day. Okay. I just think, okay, number one, this little guy is so crazy cute. And, props to artist Paula Straughn. If this is real, I mean, I haven't like validated, you know what I mean? Yeah, I haven't independently validated the truthfulness, but you've got to admit that when you've got helmet on the left, helmet on the right, you know, like this kid, he looks confused, like he doesn't know if he's a Teletubby or what's his job. And this guy here, he's like, I'm a fighter pilot, and you can see it. He's happy. He's happier because he's a fighter pilot. I don't know. I just think even people, you know what I mean? I think even the reactions of people change. I want you to think about that from a design perspective and think about that from a shiny objects perspective. Apart from the fact that that's shiny, which is not what we're talking about. Um, but right, what happens when the shiny objects are there? You know, people roll in, they see the baby on the left, same kid. That's the same kid, right? Probably that's supposed to be. Looks to me like the same kid. I can't guarantee, right? But are you with me here? That white helmet, people walk in and they're like, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" You know what I mean? Right? Your first reaction. And then the baby's doesn't the you know, Junior here doesn't actually know what's on his head, right? But people come up and they're like, "Oh," and they see the concerned look and they do resonate with adult faces, right? Eyes, facial expression, and what have you. And then with the one on the right, people walk up and they're just like, "Oh, so cute," and that's the reaction that the baby gets. See the synergistic dynamic that gets set in motion when you get something like a shiny object. Anybody have any comments about that? I got pretty much radio silence so far. It's making me nervous. So help me out here. Anybody, any thoughts on this?
I'm sorry, I just got in. Could I get the question again?
Nope, I'm sorry. You flunk the question. No,
Oh no.
sorry, Blake. The question is, What do you think about the babies? What do you think about the baby helmets? You know, I was just
The one on the right is much better.
well, there you go. Yeah. What else?
Guy want one of him drawing like zombie brains, so it looks like the kid's a zombie. Then people will still say what's wrong with him, but it's funnier.
It is absolutely funnier. No, I like that. I like that. I think that's actually, honestly, that's probably a step in the right direction from the white. You know. So, hey, Braden, about time you got here, man. We were talking about you, and we're talking about the baby. Okay, we're talking about the two babies. White helmet, pilot helmet. You know, what's the effect? What happens to you? Remember Alexander? Remember patterns? Remember the quality without a name? You know, that funky feeling of liveness that makes you feel something going on. You know, that's beyond just the purely functional, but in fact is in fact functional, right? Like I was just saying, baby on the right inspires a certain look and feel from an adult, which actually creates a face that triggers in the baby better brain chemicals than what is triggered by the helmet on the left. Exactly. That's right. That's what we were talking about, Blake. It's like the pivot from, oh, what's wrong with him? You know, is he disabled? You know, uh, to like, oh yeah, and then it's like a minute later when you're like, wait, that's a helmet. Okay, that's cool. You know, and then if you want to talk about is there an issue, you know, relative to health or you know the development of the baby or whatever, it's a natural. But you're starting from like a happy, you know, you know, uh, comment. I don't know, a little bit of a laughter, a little bit of a funny moment. I don't know. I like that. I like that a lot. I am going to drop up here, by the way. What am I getting here? Lectures. How far did we even get? We're still like on the very first line. I know where we are. We were talking about Gestalt, weren't we? And design. And we had just done the yellow sign, right? The yellow sign, the wet caution paint sign. And I want to pick up there. And again, you understand, right, that I am fairly unrepentant when it comes to like, and really, you know, like making my way through the slide. So when you get to the very end, you know, and it's like SRI time, you can go ahead and write. I mean, fine. Dr. K doesn't know how to manage or budget his time on slides. Knock yourself out. Not going to change anything in my life. And I already know this. Okay, are we good? Are we cool? Because I don't care. And the key is if I'm like having homework assignments from 5 lectures from now, then that's not fair to you. But otherwise, you just understand this part of this is such an organic, creative journey that I don't have a lot of like, I haven't yet at least, uh, you know, refined this thing down, you know, to a level of like, okay, these are the canonical 12 lectures or whatever. I don't know. It's still a real exploration.
I'm done.
Hello? Hot mic? What was that for me?
Sorry, I didn't know my mic was on. I was talking to a dog.
Braden. Okay. All right. Wet caution paint. Let's keep going. The next one I wanted to look at was this one. Just scout that for a second and talk to me. Now, again, I want to just say while you're gandering at this amazing beauty of this, it's obviously an elevator control panel, right? But as you're gandering at the beauty of the elevator control panel, I want you to understand a couple of things. Number one, this elevator, I believe, is actually in Utah Valley. I believe I took this picture in Utah Valley somewhere, maybe Provo. I'm not sure, but I did take it. I also want you to understand that when I'm talking about baby helmets and uh, you know, signs. This is not a UI class per se, but it is a class on design and design patterns. And what I want to do is try to reinforce, there's a couple of ideas, there's a couple of concepts that I really, really want you to kind of penetrate into your mind It relates to the dopamine again, okay? The minimum viable product is dopamine. It's not a set of functions. Now, let's look at this panel. So even though we're talking about an interface, just you understand the punchline is not interface design, because the same principles are going to apply whether you're writing code, right? We talked a bit about that last time. Writing code, maintainability of code, readability of code, comments even that you put in your code, documents that go along with the code, all of these things, right, are partake of a similar kind of an idea, which is your audience is not yourself. And what we get into is you have a mental model in your head. And this is a classic, right? It's called the curse of knowledge. Okay, let me talk about the curse of knowledge for a second. The curse of knowledge really needs to be like, I don't know, it needs its own slide. It doesn't have one. But listen to me. Here's the curse of knowledge. In fact, I want to run a live experiment. Somebody think of a song. I'm just take a volunteer to jump on the mic, unmute and give us this thing. Think about a song. In all fairness, it ought to be a song that you believe is really recognizable. It's not some obscure, song that no one knows or whatever. Okay, that you don't know if by Toad the Wet Sprocket or some obscure band. It's a song that everybody ought to know this tune. It could be classic, could be could be traditional, it could be pop, could be rock, could be whatever. Okay, and they've done studies about this where they would gauge. I'm not gonna go to all this right now just because of time, but they would actually ask the participants what the odds are. Well, let me just ask you a quick survey. You can drop it in the chat. What do you think the odds are that you will be? No, don't say it out loud, Ron. Don't say it out loud. But what I said, think of it. Okay, so new song by Queen, Aaron. I'm sorry. Okay. What we're going to have somebody volunteer to do is to unmute and then just tap either on their hands or on their desk or something where there's just tapping out a rhythm. Okay. Or we could, if you got the drumsticks of life, you can do whatever. Tap out the song and see if we can guess what the song is. That's the fundamental idea here. And the first question is, before we take the volunteers, what do you think the likelihood of you, if you had that in your head and you did that everybody else would guess the song you're doing? You guys want to just drop your guesses in the chat? We could do like a survey. Braden says impossible. What else? Sam says 20%. Okay. What else? 20%, depending upon how, right? Who else? Come on, Scott, 32%. Horrible. Rick's horrible at name that tune. Okay. Braden said, okay, a lot of songs use the same ingredients for sure. Tobias does not listen to music. Okay, that's a problem. We have to have a conversation. But no, actually, it's fine. Everybody gets to do their own thing. Okay, let's take a volunteer. By the way, those are not out of whack from when they've done surveys and studies. Now we're in a group setting, right? And when they would do these studies, they would just grab the subject and they'd say, "Here's what you're going to do. Think of a song, and you're going to tap out the rhythm, the cadence of the song, and then the other people have to guess." And those folks would typically, Blake, you're the victim, you're the whatever you are. Yeah, okay, that's a good one, by the way. The axis of awesomeness. That's a perfect example of the, don't watch that right now, okay? Do not watch, we need your live attention on this thing, but I do recommend it later. That's an example of using the same four chords There's a similar one where a guy does this thing with Pachelbel's Canon, which you might also know as the song Memories by Maroon 5, because it's the same chords from Pachelbel's Canon and about 1,000 top 40 hits, Okay. When they've done this with individuals who didn't get the story that I just told you and didn't know that there was a thing called the curse of knowledge, literally just sat down, got their instructions, they would usually guess about 50%, up toward 50, maybe a little less, and then, so you're guessing a little lower, but I think I've biased you a little bit in that by even just talking about it, right? And those folks are just like, okay, pick a song. You got a song? Yeah. I want you, it's very popular. Yep. Everybody should know the song. Yep. Could be, the national anthem, could be, whatever. And what's interesting is I actually remember playing this game like with my siblings, my brother or my little sister or something when I was little. We would do this thing. Okay, Blake, you're going to do the thing, right? So you want to, everybody ready? You got to pay attention. Blake's going to do the thing.
Okay.
Give us the taps. I think there was too much background on that. It kind of echoed too much.
Oh, sorry. One more time.
Anybody think they have a guess? Okay, let's stop and go like, it's just got to be just a couple measures at the front, because once you're going for a while, if you don't already have it, it just goes into the noise. Okay, Blake, it's a well-known song?
What's that? Yeah, it's pretty well known.
Well-known song. Okay. Anybody got anything? Because I got nothing. Any love at all from anybody? Okay, why don't you do it again, Blake? This time, I guess near the mic, something that's a little like distinct and not super loud like that. You know what I mean? That I don't know what that song is actually, but okay. Let's go one more time, Blake, and see, and then we maybe we'll give somebody else a shot. Okay, go ahead.
Sounds good.
Anybody got any love at all?
Come on, it's on Guitar Hero.
It's on Guitar Hero. That's your hint. Okay, everyone's bailing. Under the Sea? Avril Lavigne,
Nope.
Skater Boy?
It was the Skater Boy. I put that one.
Oh wait, you said it. Wait. Oh, you said
I
it.
said it.
You gave it away.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, somebody guessed it. Yeah, it was you.
I don't think anyone would have guessed it.
Okay. All right, let's get another volunteer. Wait, who was it? Braden said he had one. Okay, Braden. Bring it home. Wait, hang on. Before we do that, Blake, did that surprise you that like nobody was really even close?
Well, not really. It's like without the lyrics and without the actual melody, just getting the beat is pretty hard on that one, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go, Braden.
All right, I'm gonna do a test tap just to see if this comes clear. Good.
Couldn't hear it at all. I didn't hear it at all. Did you guys hear it?
Let me try tap this.
No.
Did you hear that?
No.
I might have to mess with this.
For an instant, it almost sounded like you were doing the.
Let me try to see where my
that
microphone
thing?
exactly is. That better? Okay, I might have to
I got nothing.
find a way to do it.
Nobody else is hearing anything either, right?
Let someone else go.
Okay, anybody else
I
got
got
one?
one.
Okay, go, Sam. I'm hearing nothing.
Ugh,
Is anybody else
the
hearing
mic
Sam?
must be.
Maybe try clapping.
Back to back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try it.
Okay, Sam's going.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a little echoey, so it's a kind of wait. We Will Rock You. Is that?
No.
No,
Do
okay.
you want me to go again?
Yeah,
Sorry, there's a.
let's just try one more time, just for grins.
Okay.
I got nothing at all.
Should I say?
Yeah, I think no one's jumping in for a guess. Yeah, what was it? Mr. Brightside? That's, I understand that from your collective generational perspective, Avril Lavigne and the Killers are like everybody knows that, but I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. I think it's a little more obscure than you're giving it credit for. Great songs, not arguing that. Okay, here's the point. Anybody want to guess what the point is? Guitar Hero, right? No. Sorry, Blake. Guitar Hero is not a universal. Okay, let me try one. Anybody Rush fans? I'm just gonna tell you right now, Rush. Anybody
I know
Rush
Rush.
fans?
I
Okay.
like Rush.
This one, I think, if you're a Rush fan, I think you have a very good chance of getting this one. And I don't even know if I can really do it correctly, but I'm gonna try. And I got the drumsticks. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, here we go. Come on. Give me some love.
Repeat.
Huh?
Repeat.
I don't know that I can. Wait, that was Don't Stop Believing. Oh, nobody did Don't Stop Believing. Yeah, no, I didn't claim that Rush was universal, Mitch. I just said, in fact, you may note, is anybody Rush fans? Okay, well, I'm just going to do like one measure, two measures. Ready? Okay.
My audio cuts out like a couple notes. I don't know about everybody else. I can see the sticks hit and I don't hear it, so I
Yeah.
know I'm not getting the right pattern.
Okay, so Blake, no, not Tom Sawyer. That was the obvious choice. This was YYZ, and the reason I thought it had a half decent chance is that the beginning percussion and beat is actually based on the Morse code for the letters YYZ, which is the airport code for the Toronto airport. Okay, and literally, apparently, I'm not a Morse code guy. The Morse code goes da 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 da. It's like it's actually Morse code, so it's not like you know what I mean. It's not just like a 4/4 rhythm. You know what I mean. So it ought to be a little more notable. And I said Rush, same album as Tom Sawyer, Moving Pictures, by far the best Rush album. All right, anyway, here's the punchline, the curse of knowledge, okay? Now I said we need to have a slide, and so I'm gonna make one real quick so you can remember this. Okay, ready? Slides. Okay, the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is that when you know something, it's hard to conceptualize that other people don't know it. That's the curse of knowledge, okay? You can't really, you might say objectively, oh, sure, I know, but emotionally, your instinct is, that it's like when, remember when you were a little kid, maybe some of you did this or not. Maybe you don't remember, or maybe you won't admit to it. But you remember being a little kid or watching a little kid who believed that if they closed their eyes that you couldn't see them? You ever do that one? Or maybe, again, maybe it's like, maybe you don't remember that because you were too young, or it's just too embarrassing, right? But, right. No, exactly, Blake. Yeah, Blake said when you see one of the trick pictures and you can't unsee the trick. Yes. Yes. Or okay, Sam, Mr. Brightside, fine. 1 billion listens, but they're like, only 1 million people who each watched it and or listened to it 1,000 times. That's my problem. It's a great song. Not arguing. Killers are great. Not arguing that. Brandon Flowers. Love that guy. Okay. Cheers. Here's to the Killers. That is the Killers, right? Oh, Braden. Oh my gosh. Okay, the Killers are trash. We have to part ways now, Braden. This is where I draw the line. No. No, Braden's trolling. He's a troll, man. He's absolutely trolling at this point. And I'm not going to take the bait. I'm going to talk about the curse of knowledge. Okay. When you have an idea in your head, a thing in your head, a knowledge, right, about whatever it happens to be, it's hard to, it's so little kids, when you close your eyes and you think nobody can see you, there's a projection, a really naive projection. And at that age, it's really extreme because your brain hasn't developed, frankly. And it is that if I can't see you, you can't see me. It's a kind of a projection. Well, we do the same thing, and I had one of my kids was notorious about this, where he would just start mid sentence, with, so if you did that, would that be good? And I'm like, okay, what is that? What is that? And what is, that or whatever. He was the notorious for, like, in his mind, all the ideas were right there and he just had to kind of jump into, talk about it, but without really explaining it. That's curse of knowledge. And it really afflicts designers and it afflicts software designers because you got the code to work. And when the code works, in part, there's a reason why the code works. And that is because you have to have a mental model in your head. And the mental model in your head is what you use to create the code base. All right. And then you put the organization of the code, the comments, things like that are all designed around. Remember when we talked about how code is actually human readable first and foremost, compiler readable second and only second? Well, by that same token, when you're writing code, you have to understand that it has to compile, it has to be correct, can't have bugs, but the structure of the code has to be enabling somebody who didn't write it, or you in a year when you forgot it, to redigest it and reconstruct a mental model, right? So you have the original mental model, and then the new maintainer has to reconstruct that mental model in their own head. Okay, and so that's the fundamental idea. Let me see. So anyway, no, Eric, I think it's all. I don't know, Eric, if you're being more serious, because what you're saying is clearly a truism, and I think I just want to make sure we're not like crossing a line and being overly literal about all that. I viewed this as sort of playful disagreement. Clearly, everybody gets to listen to their own music, and they're not, and they're not wrong to do so. Up to and including listening to music by Beyonce, which I think crosses the line into unacceptable, morally unacceptable to be a fan of Beyonce, which is the aggregate of basically everybody in that genre that I can no longer tell apart. So anyway, no, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, Eric, that because it was just kind of like, I don't know, I just didn't want it to be like suddenly like, ooh, suddenly get real serious. I am not going to watch that Reddit article posted by Sam, but yeah, it is a curse of knowledge. Okay, so what that means is it's really common to not understand when you write code because you put all that effort into building a mental model, or you create a spreadsheet that you need to share with somebody for a business thing you're doing, or budget with somebody, and to understand that they just aren't going to see that and have it make any sense to them because you have the mental model. Okay, does that make sense? So look at this picture now of this elevator, what is the mental model in the mind of the design engineer who created what is the mental model of the designer of that interface first and foremost have to be about when you're building the interface for an elevator? I will take responses. Okay, by the way, what Eric just said, the thinking about, that people, are getting mad about that other people like things that they don't like. Amen, right on the money. Not saying Braden was doing that, just thinking through that idea. Yes, absolutely true. Okay, yeah, no, the math in my, no, I doubt it. I doubt it. You're gonna build. No, we're not talking about who the designer was, okay? We're talking about the fundamental mental model in the head or heads of this individual or team that creates any interface of any elevator. What is the job of an elevator? Back it up. What is the job of the elevator?
It's to take people to the floor that they want to go to.
Right, that's it. It is to move you from an arrival on one floor and take you either up or down, unless you're at the very top, in which case only down, or if you're at the very bottom, in which case only up. Okay, how many floors, including parking garages, how many floors do you suspect are in this building? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm guessing 11.
Okay. Anybody confirm or deny? Got a bunch of 11s. Yeah, that's my guess as well. I mean, I took the picture, but I didn't like stop and, carve it into my head. And why is it 11? Simple answer. Why do you think it's
There are
11?
11 meaningful buttons.
There are 11 meaningful buttons. By meaningful, let's be really clear. That button, that's an
Takes
alarm
you to a
button.
destination.
Yeah, they appear to be destination buttons. That one's the open button. This one, I don't even know what that is. That's a key. And you might be like, well, I don't even know for sure which ones are which, right? But I do know that there's some P plus other stuff, and we're missing a one. So M might be one, but it starts with the P's, and the others all have P's, right? So we kind of do a little bit of extrapolation, and it could be intercom, right? We do a little extrapolation to say, I think that, okay, what about this? I think there's 11 floors. I agree. What's the top floor? Got to be quicker
Office
on your
7.
response. What's that?
Office 7. They typically have the association with the higher floors. They have the buttons arranged like the floors, presumably.
That's right. Presumably, right. Typically. Okay. Now, do you see any break? Who said that? Do you see any break from that right here? Right. The floor. The buttons arranged like the floors. Okay. Where does it deviate?
You can't have floors side to side too well, for one.
Right.
Unless you're in Wonka.
Right. Unless you are clearly disambiguating, right? So all the evens are on one side, the odds are on the other, or something like that. Now, here's the question. First reaction, don't overthink it. Just gut check. We already said 7's the top floor. I agree with you. I'm pretty sure, right? It stands alone. It's at the top. What's the bottom floor?
Just based on button arrangement, I would say P0, but obviously P -1 is.
Wait, obviously it is. I don't know that you can say that.
True.
I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you, right? You understand. I'm just saying I don't know that it's obvious. How do you divine this thing? How do you derive this? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, is this to me? I think this might be Utah Valley Hospital. No, it can't be. It wouldn't be all offices. I don't remember where I took this picture, obviously, but I did take it, and I don't think it was like City Creek Mall or whatever somebody suggested.
It's weird. It seems like the buttons are like flip flopping direction too. It's not even like they're not even keeping a path. Like
Maybe right, right, because we go 7 at the left, then we kick over. The natural place to go after 7 is 5. You know, because it's connected. The notion that I'm at 7 and I jump over to the right to, like, where the gap exists to work my way back, and now I'm cozied up to 5. Then I got to jump over, and if I follow that pattern, it goes 4 goes to 3, then comes 2, and directly to the left of 2 is M, also known as P plus 3.
At that point, you're better off ringing in your magic 8-ball.
Yeah, right. What is it? Answer unclear at this time. Right. And then you kick over to P plus 2, P plus 1. Now we're in algebra. Okay. And
Well,
then, yeah, go.
can I be devil's advocate here? Because it makes sense to me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Go ahead. No, it's all right.
Yeah, you got your main floor. P plus 3 is saying, okay, this is the main floor where the building is. There's an entrance to the underground parking that is separate, P plus P0. So if you go into the parking entrance, you're at P0. If you go up a couple floors, you're at the main level of the building. So there's 7 floors of the building, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parking floors. There's one parking floor that shares the main level of the building, and the other is from underground. And one of the entrances is at P0. So the entrance, you can go down a floor and have a -1 floor underground parking. You go up a couple floors, you're still under the building, but you're still in parking. Like, I don't know, it makes sense to me that way. But yeah, I think the format is garbage.
But you had to still work at it, right? That's the point, Stephen, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it did take me a couple of seconds to, it took me 30, 40 seconds. What's going on here? Absolutely.
Right.
Maybe what would be better is if they got rid of the plus signs and the M/L/, so it was just P number.
Right, like P3, or 1/P3. So you keep the metaphor. Because what happens, the problem is you jump 4 to 3, ignore the ordering, which I think is a little goofy. And do we really need to say office? People who are there, do we need to say it? People, literally everything else is parking. I think in this building you get office for free. I mean, as an idea. And then the problem is after 4, 3, and then 2, there's this metaphorical break, right? Where the metaphor breaks, and now it ought to be 1. And if I said 1/P3, you see what I mean? I would get 1. I would know that 1 comes from 2, and P3, I would know that those are the same level, maybe. M, I presume main floor, maybe. L, I want to go lobby. Who said landing? Steve was like, what if that's landing? Right? And the only problem I have, Stephen, I think you're probably right. And I think that's really genius. To me, though, for you to come up with that is a lot like I've been working through this amazing book of chess puzzles by Laszlo Polgar. And there's a whole section that are like white to move made in 1, white to move made in 2, right? In other words, yeah. It can be deterministically, derived. The answer exists within this finite search space and within sort of natural, logical conclusion. But man, is that
There's
really
a better way to portray it, though?
I think,
There's
man,
got to be a better way.
I
That's
think
the
it's
squeaky door if you've ever seen one, right?
yeah. And the problem is, here's what this thing does. Now, interestingly, here, let me tell you some things I really like. I like the colors. I do. I think the colors themselves, they have no meaning. If I've got 5 parking levels and everyone's a different color, what's the legend? What's the key?
Well, you parked there, so you remember seeing all this sea of blue where you parked, and as blue button, that's where I parked. I remember seeing all the blue signs where I parked.
Yeah. You know what's actually the best at that, I think, like in the world that I've ever seen, is actually City Creek, where when you're waiting for the elevator, there's like a big freaking mosaic with just like one animal, you know what I mean? And it's big if you've been there. I think that's City Creek parking. And granted that from a day before we had, you know what I do now, of course, I just use this bad boy and like just, we're good. That's how you do it. But yeah. So the different colors, yeah, maybe it reminds you of the color. Maybe. I think the challenge is I think it's trying to do too much. It's trying to say too much. And then I don't know, it's just really got issues in my view. Also, you go from P+3, P+2, P+1, P times 0. There's no other star anywhere to tell me what the star means. Like, so Stephen projected and said it's probably like a main entrance to the parking garage. That's a very reasonable, or it may have been that whoever was doing this thing was just uncomfortable with the idea of P+0, and they just, you know what I mean? We don't know. We don't know. But this is, in my opinion, a frickin' mess. But it's pleasant to look at. So it's really a classic for the sort of Norman Doors, And you know what's amazing? Ever since I started teaching this class 3 years ago, I started just on the lookout constantly for signs, and interface stuff like that. And I have taken pictures of elevator controls like all over the country, and I have quite a few. They are never the same twice, ever, ever. I've never seen. Same brand even. Never the same.
I think
I
how
don't know
I
why.
would fix this is I would do two major things. I think I would move all the office ones to one side, so you're going down one floor at a time, so they're arranged normally, and then all the parking ones to the other side. So it's almost, so it's a continuous thing and it makes sense. And then I think they
If
need
you
a
do the
legend.
loop, right? If you loop that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Instead of, they've done it odds and evens for some godforsaken reason, which is just like, I maybe if the designer had OCD, right, it
Yeah.
has to be exactly so. But it really doesn't make sense when you're mapping it to your brain.
Right.
And then I think I think they have to save space, right? I think the big distinct letters are better than trying to cram the little words in there. But they have to have a legend if they're going to do that, especially if they're
Yeah.
introducing math symbols.
How about this one, Sam? I like what you said. How about this one? If you take the stuff on the right, the 5 buttons on the right, and you got the 6, they're butted right in, right? Well, what if you just took everybody on the right and scoochied up half the width of the button, right? Then you would naturally have a cascade. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, you know what I mean? It would set up a natural cascade. And the lowest would be literally physically the lowest. And the highest would remain the highest. And everybody else would, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
even
it
that
does.
alone, I think even that alone.
I think that's decent. I do wonder though, because it's probably not a custom made elevator, right?
I was gonna say.
They may have a specific interface to install the buttons and the stuff, but yeah,
Could be.
that could be good too.
But I mean, every elevator has, I mean, not, yeah, I don't know enough about how elevators actually do their thing, right? Is there like okay, you can choose from we need the 11 floor plan. Okay, here's the 11 floor. What would you like to call them? And that's your variability. That's possible. Possible. And then, of course, the key card, which you still don't quite know, like what. Anyway, but just noodle, right? I just want you to noodle. This is just understand though that the individuals who made the interface had a model in their head, and then the person who steps in does not have that model. Curse of knowledge.
Dr. K, can I play devil's advocate?
No, curse of knowledge. Go ahead. Yeah.
I know for a fact, because I worked in a building that had this. Some elevators are intentionally made to be esoteric, so that people who aren't familiar to the building will not know as well as someone who, is a regular there.
Okay.
Which
And
I can see
also,
that very
it's very
easily. 'Cause
possible that the template that we would change on this thing might be default. So the way the buttons are put, the options to put things on the buttons, they might not have an option to get one that doesn't say office
no, that's
on
right.
it.
That's right. Now, of course, what we're talking about, we're not trying to blame the
Oh,
office
I know.
building, right? Other than, I mean,
There's a lot of instances like this where you think, oh, who would come up with that? Why would they do that?
yeah,
And it's like, either it's not a choice or it's an intentional choice to make it like
right.
what other people would consider bad.
That's right. And let me respond one real quick thing to that, Braden, because there really are two parts of this. One is recognizing the suck, because there's clear suck here. Recognize independent. We're not, because it's really less about who would do this. Because I agree with you completely, Braden, that there are a lot of situations. There are situations where I'm in the know about something, and then someone else is just like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense," whatever, and you're like, "No, it's actually these are the constraints." Now, I'm not saying it's great, but I am saying that you're blaming the wrong
Let me
people.
defend this
If
real
the
quick
point is
too.
blame, right? Yeah, go, Braden.
Let's say that there's somebody that doesn't have the highest IQ. Maybe it's a child.
Could
Maybe
be a
it's just someone
professor. Could
who's
be a university
as smart as a
professor.
child.
Go ahead.
So you say, hey, you need to go use the elevator. Push the yellow button. And so because there's a yellow button, it's really useful because that person might not be able to tell, like, oh, go to the lobby.
Okay.
You can easily tell people like that, use the yellow button.
Yeah, and then we'll have a conversation with you about the unattended child heading to the massive parking structure. But that's another conversation.
Oh, I was saying, or somebody who has the
Or somebody,
intelligence or capacity of a child.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Those people are on their own. So I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. It's just the exploration, right? It's just about the exploration. And again, the
Trying to make
punchline
it
is
so that
not.
this was a smart decision.
What's that, Braden?
I was trying to argue that this could be a smart decision.
You're right. And this actually, you bring up a really, really important point. There's almost always a trade-off between, something, remember, right, patterns, the resolution of forces, right? And the forces come together and they, you can't really fully satisfy, either of the two forces. And the difference between compromise is like the least common denominator. But what Alexander kind of really preaches in the timeless way of building, in a sense, is really more of the synergistic, where it's a it's a better than either one, because it balances the forces. So anyway, these are just things I want you to be thinking about, right? And it really is less about who's the idiot, because there's almost always a better reason, but there are many times when there is not a better reason. And there are also many times where we have the ability to have some influence. And I still think that if you can manage these two ideas in your head, I'm a big fan of keeping like multiple ideas in your head at the same time. And one of them is that can suck. And another one would be they had no choice. That's possible, right? That those two can both exist. And the key would be, as you become exercised at understanding when things suck, it tunes you into your own curse of knowledge. Is what I'm doing going to suck? Is it accessible to somebody who's not me? What is somebody who doesn't have my mental model going to do? And this relates very strongly to what Don Norman talks about in The Design of Everyday Things, spoiler, which is that any door, the famous Norman doors, that a door that has to have a sign to tell you how to work the door is a poorly designed door. It's like the sign is the indicator that the door itself didn't convey accurately and well enough to you what it was you were supposed to do with it, right? That's the idea. So again, and this relates also to armor from another chunk of the book that I didn't provide to you up on Canvas, which is this idea that devices carry with them, embed within themselves, the knowledge necessary for its usage. In other words, he articulates tools as information transmission devices, which I think is really a brilliant conclusion. Okay. You know, if you pick up a shovel, you know, when I was a manual laborer, we sometimes would refer to the smart end of the shovel, right? The dumb end of the shovel is the one you've got your hands on. Smart end of the shovel is the one that's doing the work, right? Nobody grabs the blade and tries to stick the wood into the ground. The shovel just invites you to pick it up and go, wait a minute, you know, and next thing you know, you're like, huh, you know, and you immediately, these are the kinds of toys or devices that when you give it to a child who doesn't know anything about the metaphors, that the child immediately, you know, above a certain developmental age will or stage will pick the device up and start to use it approximately correct, you know. And it's funny and cute when a kid doesn't do that because they have no concept. Very quickly at a certain level, well-designed things, it's natural to pick them up and to do what they need to be done. The device itself embodies within it the information, thus overcoming the curse of knowledge. A Norman door has a sign because of the curse of knowledge. Something clever or something happened in the design where the developer knew what they were trying to do, and a user of it has to keep that in their mind in order to use it, right? I talked about turning my key one way, I talked about that, right? Turning my key one way or the other to get the alarm to go off versus the alarm, you know, an alarm is going to go off. And I have to remember this to drive my crappy Jeep. You know, this is all kind of tied together in this collection of ideas, okay? Um, Glasses, where's my glasses? I wanted to just see real quick. Yeah, I do want, it was actually a feature in the email app in the mail app in Mac OS 10, actually. Stephen took a crack at, yeah, I like it. Actually, I like it better, Stephen. And I think that part of what makes it is the one. I'm just looking finally at Stephen's picture from 4 minutes ago. You know what I mean? The one gives you the connective tissue, but it still makes you work a little bit. Um, and then Braden's going to double down on Brendan Flowers. Let it go, Braden. Let it go, man.
Speaking of what you were speaking about, though, it's kind of made me think. Do you know a book series called Wayside School?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a school that was built sideways, so
Yeah.
every new classroom is another floor instead of being built one floor. In one of the chapters of the books, they build an elevator because it's like so many stories high. But to make it so that the elevators go smoothly, they have one that's designated for going up and one that's designated for going down. After the first use of the elevators, they were unusable.
Right, exactly. I like that. Wayside School, yeah. For me, it was that my kids read those. You know what I mean? I was having kids when those books came out. But I might have actually. It's possible that I read one. I would
They're
sometimes.
pretty good. They're for kids, but anyone can laugh at the jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is actually another example of balancing the forces, right? Disney historically has been very good at this. Pixar very good at it, which is you need something that is, you know, built, you know, for children, but which can be understood or, you know, appreciated, right, by kids at one level and adults on a different level, depending upon which way you sort of view through. That's a really actually great example of you know, doing the resolving of the forces. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to see something real quick about Wayside School, and I'm skipping away from it now. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Shall we keep going? Okay, so here's a couple of ideas. Okay, and we're going to we've one of the things we've done here is rambled about a lot of stuff, and it's all there. And now what I want to do is like clarify some of it. Okay, so design is largely about removing the suck. You take your first crack at dumping it out there, then you start sifting through it to remove the stuff that sucks. Okay, you're minimizing the shiny objects. Sorry, maximizing the shiny objects, minimizing the squeaking doors. Right. That's also kind of a balancing of forces. You need to rapidly iterate, and we sometimes refer to this as failing rapidly. You've probably heard that expression. And it has a lot of meanings, frankly, and a lot of legitimate meanings. This idea of failing rapidly. But from a design perspective, what that means to me is you try a thing and then just sort of see how it feels. Try it, find the squeaking door, finesse that. Find something that could be better from a kind of a shiny object perspective, right? That can be form or it could be function, right? That gives you that. But here's the thing, this is kind of the punchline. At the end of the day, there's an experience that happens when you use it. So when you are here, right? And you walk up and you're aware, you're going to see this and it's going to make you stop for a second. As soon as you stopped for a second to have to figure it out, you know it sucks. You know you have a squeaking door. You shouldn't have to stop to figure it out. Again, the Braden theory, we'll call it, the theory of, trap people in the mysterious labyrinth that they can't get out of because they're intruders. We'll gather them up at the end of the workday, right? I mean, we have that theory. And, but other than that, the goal is I see it and I immediately, like I got this water bottle, right? And if I'm just like, I go to get my water, I look at the bottle, I don't even look at it. I pick it up, I grab the thing, right? But imagine that somebody invents a better water bottle and I go to do the thing and I grab it and it's like, now I got to start like looking through my grandpa glasses, like, yeah.
No, that elevator stinks. What they should have is either 1, 2, the max number, or they can have negative numbers under 1, and then they should have a map with like the other information.
Could
Like,
also
the main lobby is also on parking 3 on the map, and not clutter up those buttons.
I agree.
That's what they should have done.
I agree. So, the point just being, rapid failing is you try it, you experience it. Just squeaking doors happen in the experiencing of it. If someone's going to give me, for example, they're going to do an app, you're going to do app design, and someone gives me like a wireframe, mock-up of a, whatever it happens to be, of an app. That gives me a static view of what the screens might look like. But what I cannot tell, and this is critical, if my app starts and there is, always 2 seconds of dead time, right? You have to figure something out about that because the 2-second dead time is, you might just be like, it's no big deal. They're hanging around. No, that's the curse of knowledge. You're hanging around because you're the developer. The user is going to go, ooh, and in that amount of time, they're going to be staggered just a little bit. Okay. Now, next principle, design principle, and also a sales principle. When there is a question in the mind of the customer, the answer is no. Okay. Let me say it again. When there is a question in the mind, or when there's confusion in the mind of the customer, the answer is no. For them to move and to act, to buy is to act, to tap is to act. If there's any confusion at all, the answer is no. And that's where usability just drops off. But it also happens when someone goes to try to review your code, understand your code, look at your design docs, edit your code, right? Refactor it, modify it, do whatever. They go to do it, and it creates this bog down of energy that sucks energy out of your company, literally, okay? Because your design introduces too much of a cognitive load on the individuals who have to come behind and consume it. This is just a really kind of a, easy to understand metaphor for that kind of an idea, but it's true of all design, okay? If your design looks like a bunch of spaghetti clunk, I don't even know what spaghetti clunk is, but it doesn't seem good, and I've got to tease it all apart to build, it's so painful, then there's just a lot of negative repercussion in your company, even if nobody can see the manifestation. Besides that, maintainability is a bigger problem. Bugs are a harder problem, okay? If your code and if your design looks like spaghetti clunk, your code's going to look like spaghetti clunk. The underlying operational dynamics are going to be spaghetti clunk. Okay, that's why modularity and these kinds of ideas are so critical. Okay, so from a design perspective, you like when you're editing, you edit the text and then you read it again. Type your comment. You know, when you're done, make one more pass through your code. Thinking you know that last pass is not for you and it's not for the compiler. It's for the next person coming down the road. And then you're going to read through and you're going to reread your comments and you're going to go, that's not very clear. I can make that a little better, right? Or you might even look at it and say, ooh, I just realized that that was really tricky and I didn't explain myself. You add a little comment to say, you know, I've even seen comments, I've literally seen this comment in professional code that just goes, do not touch this code. Anyone seen that? Just do not touch this code. You know, that's pretty bold because sometimes it's like, okay. And sometimes the only way to handle code like that is actually to unit test it, brute force unit test, and convert it into a black box. You following me? And use the black box as your spec. I don't know exactly why it's doing what it's doing, but I do know that given this full range of inputs, you know, these sorts of things generate these kinds of responses and those other things generate these other things. And that's how you refactor code that where they say, do not touch this code. Because now it would have been better to say, let's explain what this code is doing so that the next maintainer can come behind, right? And actually touch it because you've conveyed a mental model, all right? Otherwise, it's the curse of knowledge. Okay. One other thing I want to say about rapid failure, we've talked a little bit about, this is more of a topic for 305G, but we talked a little bit, I think, maybe about, we get really afraid to fail. And I just want to say every great design, every great everything is essentially an endless sequence of failures, and you can't be like caught up on that. You know, you just got to fail rapidly to get to what the right thing is. That's really what I want to say. If you're afraid of failing, you can never really iterate. Okay, Ernest Hemingway, this is in the field of writing literature, in this particular case, English. He rewrote the last page of A Farewell to Arms 39 times. And this is Hemingway, you know, who was, shall we say, a really good writer. And then he was asked why, and he said that he was just getting the words right, which I think is just brilliant, you know. And I think we get into this thing where I don't know, you know, we did a thing, we don't want to throw anything away. But the reality is that great designers are not afraid to take a bunch of code and just go, oh, I know how to do this. Block comment all the code, right? And then right in the moment, refactoring is nothing but really throwing away code, but doing it a different way, you know? And we only get really nervous about throwing stuff away when we don't have any confidence in our own ability to do it again. You know, we're like, that's my code, you know, like, yeah, well, it sucks. Let's do it again. You know, I put a lot of energy. By the way, one of the things that does not wash, and you've got to call bullcrap on this when you see it in your careers, just etch it into your head as the Dr. K says, call bullcrap moment, which is when something sucks and somebody says to you, well, I spent a lot of time on this, you know? There's various ways you can handle this. You can say, well, you must not be very good at design. That's the scorched earth approach. You can also say, more's the pity. That's the sort of the more, you know, I don't know what that is. That is more the medieval response. Hey, more's the pity. That's the pirate response. No, you know what I mean, though? It's like, because here's the bottom line, the amount of time that somebody spends doing something that sucks, or frankly, anything, has no bearing on whether the thing sucks. I think that's a truism, right? You could pour your life work into something, you know? What was that movie that I haven't seen? Tommy Wiseau, The Room. What is that movie? Some of you have probably seen it, right? All right, a movie so bad, you know, that it's like you can pour your life work into something, and it can still suck. And I've had people say that, when something's like, oh, I'm just not. Yeah, it is related, Rick, to the sunk cost fallacy, which is a variant. I think that I put a lot of time into it. I think as an example of somebody trying to deflect, and they're very worried about being wrong. They don't want to be wrong, so they're going to say, I put a lot of time into it, and you're like, well, that's fine. And I appreciate that, and I'm really sorry, but I mean, that has no bearing on whether this is the right thing to do or not. Now, they may be trying to persuade you that we don't dare redo it because look how much time I took and it would take somebody else that amount of time. That is almost not true at all. The question is it going to be a lot different or is it going to be way worse? Maybe somebody who's a better designer, a lot of times great designers actually move faster than bad designers so that it's actually more efficient to do it well. That's a possibility. Just ideas, just dropping ideas on you. And I think if you're lecturing a computer science class and you can bring up Tommy Wiseau, I think you're swinging. The big stick. Thank you, Braden, for that. Holy crap! Holy crap! Braden, all due respect, I can't even go there. I cannot even go there right now. But for anybody coming behind, just so we know what we're talking about. Spinning beach ball. Braden just offered up this one. For the love of all we hold sacred, what in the ever-loving hell is?
So instead of floor numbers, it's how many feet up from the ground floor it is.
Not really.
Yeah.
Is it seriously?
Apparently, it's a water treatment facility, though, so that's important to them for some reason.
Hey, to be fair, I
well,
thought
local
what
knowledge,
it was
local knowledge, right? I mean, if that's meaningful to your audience, right? Okay, that's brilliant.
Well, I was
man.
disappointed when I found out that's what it was, though, because I was hoping that you had to calculate by adding and subtracting until you got the right floor.
Oh no, I was looking at it going, okay, that's a negative 13 to get to the next floor, and it's still negative 13. No, it's actually negative 13 the whole way. Then we go negative 15 though, then minus 10. Now I'm screwed up. I landed in the middle.
I was hoping that you had to do plus so much and then minus so much until you get to the number that you want. That's what I was hoping.
Oh my gosh.
But
okay. Braden, thank you. I think Braden won the chat with that right there. So far. There's still a few minutes left. No, right. But again, if those numbers are meaningful, right, to a water treatment plant, that might be way more, but that presumes a local knowledge. That's like the cockpit of a 747, maybe, right? Where you're supposed to be a pilot to understand what's going on there, right? But also in Norman, the design of everyday thing, which I will give you extra credit for reading. I already mentioned, give you extra credit for reading these bad boys, which are just still here. But Norman, the design of everyday things, which is around here somewhere, I have too many books. No, I don't, because that's actually not possible. But I don't have Norman right here next to me. He talked about doing design on like nuclear power plant, control panels, and about how like it looked like somebody was like, if somebody was deliberately trying to create, the next Chernobyl, yeah, this would be. I think he actually came in and did interface analysis after like the 3 Mile Island nuclear disaster some many, many moons ago. All right, yeah, the elevator in the math guild. All right, here we go. Let's keep going. And it really relates to the same principle as editing. Okay, you just have to understand, and this is important. Maybe you haven't done a lot of this, and you just think that great designers, like great writers, they just they go to this place inside them, and their muse calls to them, and then all the words, you're just Mozart, and symphony just pours out of your soul or whatever. Maybe that's true for Mozart. I don't know if it was, but maybe it was, right? But most everybody else has to grind it quite a bit. You know what I mean? Has to grind these things out to get to where they're going. And a lot of times it's like you try a thing, it doesn't work, you change it. Try that, that doesn't work. Change it, change it, change it. Suddenly you make a change and it's like, you know, choirs of angels. Oh, that's my choir of angel imitation. Voice is not great, right? And then you're like, okay, that's it. That's usually how it goes. You keep going until something, a little dopamine release rewards you and goes, the squeaking door, squeaking door, squeaking door. Ooh, wait. Okay, let me do this again. Let me feel it. What am I feeling? Trust your brain. Trust your brain. Who knows whether the pattern matches or not? Okay? And the enemy of all of this, is, hey, I think it's good enough. Okay? I think it's okay. I think it's good enough for our purposes. Or, right? Or that's not bad considering. Okay, that's kiss of death right there. Not bad considering. Okay. But again, you've got to understand, you've got to be able to perceive that it sucks or you can never make it sing. Okay. Now this is one, I do this more in 305G where we talk about writing. So some of you in there have already seen this one, but this is a classic ancient, there's a story behind this comic. Writing is nature's way of letting you know how sloppy your thinking is. And I love this. If you try to write it down, well, guess what? What do the comments do? If you can't come up with succinct comments for your code or a succinct design or articulate the class diagram or the database schema or all the things that go into design, right? If you can't articulate it, you haven't thought it through. And the reason we talk about UML, which we'll do for a lot of the remainder of the semester, the reason we do that is to try to reinforce this process by which we think and try to embody, our ideas, in a way that can be understood, that can be analyzed, that can be evaluated or critiqued or improved, right? But it makes us gut check about whether we really know what in the crap we're thinking. A lot of times we don't. We say, write it down, and you start writing it, you're like, oh, I don't really know how to express it. That's probably not because your writing is bad. It's probably fundamentally because your thinking is muddled. Because you know what I mean? You can still write it poorly, but articulate the thinking. That's the goal. Okay, let me keep going. Yeah, we've talked about this already. Once I know that something is squeaking, if it's shiny, trust your brain. Your brain does the pattern matching. Okay, down inside, right here in your brain. No, but it feels like it's in your gut is where it feels like it's happening. But yeah, it's in your head. Your brain knows that the object is shiny before you do. The brain knows that it's squeaking before you do. Okay, but it's critical to trust your brain. This is really, really critical. And I kind of figured out over the years that if somebody like a student came to me with a research topic, I could tell just by the way it lit me up. If the idea was like, ooh, wait, hang on, and then ideas start to generate, then that was a really good indicator to me that we really because my brain was like, Chuck, stop, look, pay attention to this. There's a lot of ideas popping out of this, right? Your brain knows, okay? By the way, this was just one. We're about out of time, but I want to just show you this one. And I'm going to ask you, there's not even a homework one anymore, but I did post some small projects like 1 through 4 to just do over the next 3 weeks. I'm not going to be crazy about the deadlines, right? I'm, going to go do my heavily narcotics thing, on Wednesday and be out for a week. And, but I did post, go look on Canvas for small projects 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I asked students to I'm asking you the same thing, to go find some shiny objects. Go find me a shiny object, okay? And this student, William, last name, obscured to protect confidentiality. Not that I think he minds, but this is What is the game? This is not a game I play. What is the game? Wizards of the Coast? No, what is that? Some of you probably know. I don't know the game.
That's the company that produces Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
Okay, so is this Magic?
It's a company.
What are these cards? What's the game from?
Yeah, that's Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Yep.
No offense to anybody. I've never played Magic the Gathering. Okay. All right. But check it out. You've got this legendary creature called Giant Warrior. You got another legendary creature called Azra Assassin, right? Virtues the Veiled, and Gorm the Great, right? What do you notice?
It's different perspectives of the same picture.
Yes. Okay, what do you think of that? Are you as impressed as I am? Because you know what the correct answer is. No, what do you think of that? I mean, you're introducing two characters, right? You don't have to do that. What is that? What do you think?
Well, it's really cool. And if you play the game like I do, they also synergize and work together really,
Exactly.
really well.
And you know where it says it? Right there. Partner with Virtues the Veiled. And this one partners with Gorm the Great. So the picture of each of them is the same picture of both of them viewed from the vantage point of a straight-on view of each of them. Okay? That, in my opinion, my friends, is freaking brilliant. And I'm really, really good, like most people, at being critical and, and I'm better than most people at trying to find what sucks. It's a critical part of my professional. I have to do this. It's professional responsibility. No, it is a perpetual quest that my brain won't release me from. That's the truth. What I try to do is harness that, okay? Now, given the relentlessness with which I'm willing to see, squeaking doors and negative things and things that suck, you got to stop. I have got to stop and praise a frickin' amazing moment in the history of design. They could have just as readily stuck Virtues the Veiled, and just a picture of Virtues the Veiled doing his thing, and then Gorm the Great, and then in each case, just each of them alone, and in each case, just told you who the partner was. And they would have lost this moment, which is another principle of interface design, but it's also a universal design principle and a pattern that I call breadcrumbs. Okay, and one of the assignments I've just given you, which you got to do, we're out of time, is find a pattern. Look it up and then jump on Discord if you have questions. There's only 13 of you, and I can clarify if it's not really clear. But jump on Canvas and pull those assignments. Like 2, 3, and 4, I think are the ones. Okay, for me, there's a design principle. It's a pattern that I call breadcrumbs, which says I need to have as much connective tissue as I'm jumping, right? If I tap on something or I click on something and I'm going to move from this part of my screen to the next, if I have a game, right, and my map moves, smoothly, right, and now I can see where I am, I have breadcrumbs in my head about how I got here, right? But what if I did this? I'm in scenario A and I just go, and I get the second one. The starting point and the end point were identical. The only thing that's different is a transition that preserves the breadcrumbs, provides breadcrumbs. My brain can move from here to there and know how I got here. Here, anytime you have to say, it's also a principle of great writing, especially creative writing, narrative writing, but ever, show, don't tell. When you can show it, then go ahead and say it. But if you can show, don't tell, that's ideal. What are they doing? Showing you and telling you. And if all they did was tell you and didn't show you, the connection would not have been as stark. And when you are playing Virtues the Veiled, you see big boy, Gorm the Great. You see him in the background always, every time you look at your Virtues the Veiled thing, constantly teaching your brain subliminally that these two go together, lowering the cognitive burden so that the things you have to remember to play this component of the game where they both partner with each other drops to zilcho. Are you with me? Can I get an amen or something? I mean, that is friends, this is such an important design principle, and it applies everywhere, 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 not just to interface and not just to gaming. And it looks like, as Braden has articulated for us, they have done it again. I mean, in other spots. Not a shocker. Not a shocker. Let me bring that over just for everybody, right? Same idea, right? There's that person. There's that person. That is, I'm done. We're out of time. That is freaking brilliant design, in my opinion. I am very readily willing to, to be critical when it's merited. That is brilliant and needs to be praised. So, whew. And you know
I
what?
mean, there's even
Amazingly,
more layers.
look at this, by the way. Just want to say, we actually finished like a slide set. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's even more layers to it when you look at the actual mechanics of the game, because if you read the card text, like they pair together to like Gorm is very difficult to kill, but he doesn't do too much to the enemy player. But Virtus, on the other hand, is pretty easy to stop, but he
But he's more
really harms
vulnerable,
them.
right? Okay.
Yeah. So Gorm forces everybody to attack him while Virtus goes in sort of from behind and really does a lot of damage, which is kind of cool.
Right.
But
great design. Great design.
yeah, and one thing too is it's important that when you're looking at the context of a game, it's important not just that they synergize with each other and seem cool, but also that they're appropriate in how strong they are for how much they cost and in keeping with everything else in the game. And I think for these they did a pretty good job.
Love it. Love the commentary, Sam. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna shut it down. I'll be around. I'll stick around. I'll be on Discord. But I hope this was like converging on all these things we've been talking about and bringing it a little bit more to kind of a nexus. I hope. And anyway, hit me up on Discord if you have questions about any of the other stuff that I pushed up on Canvas.
This is great. Thank you. I'll see you Wednesday probably.
Or not. Oh, unless you work at the hospital, you won't.
Wait, is there
Oh, I haven't figured that out yet. No. I'll figure it out. I'll let everybody know. I actually, I'm not really.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
I got my surgery, and I don't yet know what I'm going to do. I'll figure it out. I'll let everybody know.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
I'll see you.
See everybody.